that time that you take is a year. That means you're dedicating that year to yourself and to keep your eyes on your higher power, keep your eyes on your program, and be able to chart a new course and build a new life. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. You deserve it. Like when you hear your disease say, oh, I don't know if I can handle this for a year. Like, you deserve it. You know, what I looked at is, how long had I been practicing these dysfunctional behaviors? All my life. Yeah. How long is it going to take me to get over them? Not all my life, but if I can't dedicate 1 year to really focusing on myself, like something's wrong, you know, to change a course. Alicia, so would anyone like to share their bottom line?
At least 4 hands.
I don't even never look at those hands over there.
I know. So you have Nikki, Marina, and Lindsay.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Nikki.
Hi, I'll try to just be quick, but I'm having a little trouble finding the bottom lines because again, I've been in long relationships and was married for 25, and I have had gaps in between. It's been 5 years. So the closest I seem to sort of find is, and I'm new, I'm only 3 weeks into this, but would be perhaps, you know, I don't have any of those behaviors. Haven't done any of this. I'm sure I have something, but would just maybe be like getting attached too quickly. And even though I got my eyes wide open. Yeah.
Getting attached too quickly is, which characteristic is it?
I think it's number 1, maybe.
Exactly. Thank you. Characteristic number 1. Having few healthy boundaries, we become sexually involved with and or emotionally attached to people without knowing them or without knowing them well.
Can I comment? There was at a dating plan workshop I was at, they talked about when we're experiencing our inner drugstore.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so thank you, Nikki, and everyone else who's really that new, just keep coming. You're going to hear what your bottom lines need to be, and keep looking back. What got you here? That's your beginning bottom line. What got you here is your beginning bottom line. This is a newcomer's packet that the L.A. and Orange County Intergroups passed out. So it's just a conglomeration of all the different readings is what it is.
And I'm confused in how I got here because I thought I chose someone that seemed available. And that was a question I put earlier, which I know you have to move on, but could the qualifier be sort of unintentional? I met someone that seemed very available and then they had a trauma and now they're out. So that was very confusing to me. And I was already hooked into the good person that I met. Can a qualifier sort of be unintentional, you know, not a bad person, but all of a sudden they change or like.
Well, yes, the answer to that question is yes. Yeah, because the key to that was they change. And that's why we have a dating plan that goes, what's the word? Slow. Everybody, that's why we have a dating plan that goes
slow.
Are we all together on this? That's why we have a dating plan that goes slow. How many times do we need to say this? So all of you that are in WhatsApp groups, I just love these WhatsApp groups. They're so amazing. But you will regularly see in every WhatsApp group somebody posing a sober dating question. But we're failing to ask, how long have you been in our program? How long have you been sober? Do you have a dating plan? Are you cleared for dating? Now, once all of those are, I've been in the program over a year. You know, I have a sponsor who has cleared me for dating. I have a dating plan that's very clear. Okay, now we can talk. But trying to tell someone who's a sex and love addict how to sober date when they're not sober, when they don't have a sponsor, when they don't have a dating plan and when they're not working the steps, there's no such thing. So that's for people who come to our program, and what happens is they get relief. Like just hanging out with us, we're really cool. Just hanging out with us, you're going to get some good stuff by osmosis. But it's not sober dating material. But people come and they get relief and they go, oh, I got this. I don't need to keep going back to those meetings. So there's a big difference in relief and recovery. Recovery comes when you get a sponsor, you work the steps, you stay off these bottom lines that we're working on setting right now. That's when recovery begins to happen.
You have like 5 hands raised.
I'm not going to be able to answer these questions. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We got to move on. We've got to move on. So we're going to continue to massage this. So step 1 is we admitted we were powerless over our sex and love addiction and our lives had become unmanageable. So I want you to know how to work this on a daily basis. So every day that I wake up to this day, from the beginning to this day, I wake up and I say, I admit I'm powerless over my sex and love addiction and my life is unmanageable. And today, here's what I'm powerless over and here's what has the potential to make my life unmanageable. That's your question. What am I powerless over today? And what has the potential to make my life unmanageable today? I want you to say this to yourself every single day. I admit I am powerless over my sex and love addiction, and my life is unmanageable. So today, I'm powerless over the man that I'm dating. I don't get to control him. I'm powerless over my son. I don't get to control him. I don't get to define how other people live their lives. I'm powerless over the coronavirus. I'm powerless over the people that I work with. So what are you powerless over today? And where is your life unmanageable? Today, there's not any pockets in my life that are unmanageable beyond those that I can't control around the coronavirus. The unmanageability in my life today is around doubt and uncertainty about work and about living arrangements and those kinds of things. But I get to surrender to that. That's not something that today I'm going to have an answer to. So what are you powerless over today? And today, what is has the potential to make your life unmanageable? So that's what we want to do for the rest of our lives. Have your finger on the pulse of your powerlessness and the unmanageability. And just for the record, there is no step that you have to take perfectly except step 1. We have to take step 1 perfectly. If I can't say without a shadow of a doubt that I am a sex and love addict and that my life is unmanageable, why would I go to all of the effort and all of the work that the remaining 11 steps involve? It's a lot of work. For those of you who have done a step 4, shake your heads. It's a lot of work. And those of you who have gone beyond step 9 in any program, it's a lot of work. So if we don't take step 1 perfectly, then there's really not the impetus to go to any lengths for the rest of the steps.
Can we define, I think we talk about this in meetings, about the only requirement to come is because people are having difficulties feeling they can't commit. And I think it's good for us to discuss that for a second.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, you don't have to attend our meetings. We say the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop acting out in your sex and love addiction. It doesn't mean the requirement for membership is that you have stopped acting out in your sex and love addiction. You know, it just means you have the desire to. And so there's a lot of people who have long-term sobriety in our program who it took them years to get long-term sobriety. And so keep coming back no matter what. So how do you do this step perfectly? It means you say, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm powerless over my sex and love addiction, and my life has become unmanageable. When I walked through the doors here, it was really messed up. I was utterly powerless over my love addiction in particular, and definitely my sex addiction, but my life was unmanageable. You know, the people that I was seeing, the time I was spending on dating apps, the time I was spending talking to guys on the phone, there was not a sense of manageability there. So I want to move through all of these steps, and you're going to get a sense when I share with you the entirety of these 3 steps together, the way I work them every day. So I'm going to move on to step 2. So step 2 is that we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So in step 1, we've gotten really honest. We've really come face to face with our addiction. And now step 2 comes the hope. Like if we just leave somebody there at step 1, that's so depressing, you know? And so we move as quickly as possible into step 2. And it is really the hope. So there's 2 parts to step 2. Part 1 is believing in a power greater than ourselves. And so the first time that I worked this step was in Overeaters Anonymous. And I had so much spiritual abuse. I was raised in the kind of religion that many people would consider a cult. You know, that we are the chosen few and everybody else is like bad. And so very sequestered. But I didn't have a relationship with a higher power that I wanted to have. Because I didn't see that higher power as forgiving, as giving grace, as caring about my sex and love addiction. I saw it as judging. So at that time that I first came into a 12-step program, I had to believe that my sponsor believed, and she had what I wanted. Like she just was free, and I wanted her freedom, and I believed in her. And that was a healthy belief. That if God could do for her and relieve her of these obsessions, that God would do that for me too. I didn't believe there was anything different. And she constantly told me that. God hasn't done anything for me that God won't do for you. Your higher power hasn't done anything for any of us present and those unpresent in our meetings that your higher power won't do for you too. So that's part 1. We define this higher power, and this higher power has to have all power, like to move mountains, to take away our obsession. And so like the bigger your higher power is, the more you're able to turn to that higher power. Like when it feels like that higher power is just, you know, kind of nickel and diming us through life, why would we want to turn to that higher power, you know? So that higher power has to be all loving, all forgiving, all caring, and all helpful. And you get to build on that. And wants me to have healthy, loving relationships, wants you to have healthy, loving relationships, wants to hold you in the palm of its hand to care and nurture and support. So that's part 1. And then part 2 of step 2 is this higher power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And this, if we could hear the hallelujah chorus right now, the trumpets would sound, the angels would sing, restore us to sanity. Say it with me. Restore us to sanity. Restore us to sanity. Like really grasp that there is a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity. Now, we just woke up. We admitted we were powerless over our sex and love addiction today. We defined whatever that was. We defined, we're not going to take any calls from so-and-so. We're not going to make any calls to so-and-so. We're going to have no contact with so-and-so. We're not going to go on Facebook, Instagram, these kinds of things. So that's step one. Now, I believe a power greater than myself is going to restore me to sanity. Here's the big question. What does sanity look like now? Write it down. What does sanity look like now? What does sanity look like today? And you can go further. What does recovery in this situation look like today? What does recovery look like now? So think of wherever you're at in your life, whether you're that newcomer or whether you've been around a while. What does sanity look like today? So when I initially was taking this step, sanity looked like not intriguing with men. And that meant I put myself on my own term that I hadn't heard a lot then, 8 years ago, and that was lockdown. I put myself on my own emotional lockdown and physical, meaning I didn't have anything to do with any man because I was so highly addicted and looking to men for lava. So I had to go no contact with men. Now, there are many of you who are co-parenting. Kenny was only 12 at that time. And so I had to co-parent. And guess what? Co-parenting totally changed when I got to this program. Co-parenting turned into exactly what do I have to say? And if it didn't have to be said, it didn't come out of my mouth. Like I wasn't, sending barbs. I wasn't trying to guilt. I wasn't trying to get something out of a man who never wanted to give it, never was going to give it, So being able to have as little contact with the kinds of people that you turn to with your addiction. And so one of the questions in the chat says, what about bisexuals? You get to look at, maybe there's a certain type, maybe there's a certain group. Like you have to develop rigorous honesty with how you relate to your disease. And that rigorous honesty is going to come voluntarily, or it's going to come crashing down really, with slip after slip after slip. So you get to go willingly into rigorous honesty, or you're going to have to fight your way out of slips. And the reason I say that is that if you're a bisexual or any, it doesn't really matter. If you don't define your bottom lines as honestly as you can, and you're still looking for loopholes, how to get your lava, you're just going to have multiple slips and you don't really get down that path to recovery. But that's okay. We're all different. We're all on a different, time schedule. We're all working the program to the very best of our ability. So I don't say that in any kind of judgment to anyone who slips repeatedly. There are plenty of people who have long-term recovery and great lives in our program who slipped for years. They just kept coming back. That's what we do. We just keep coming back.
Someone just also taught me there's a difference between recovery and sobriety. Because I felt like I couldn't get started, and she said, just start with your recovery path. I don't know if that helps. And the other thing I want to mention, somebody was like, when somebody has a restraining order and the other person's violating, that's not necessarily our slip.
Right. Yeah. When we get into restraining orders and that kind of stuff, that's a whole different discussion. And I love all these discussions, but for today, I want to get through these steps.
I think what I'm trying to say is that our bottom lines are the things that we actually can control, and how a person responds to us, we have to adjust with someone from a program to say, okay, now what's the best response for me?
Right. What's a sober response? So frequently someone will say, oh, I have to change my bottom line because so-and-so reached out to me and I wrote back and said, please do not contact me any further. Our relationship is over and we're done. I wish you the very best, but don't contact me anymore. Oh, I need to change my bottom line because I wrote back. It's like, no, that's a sober reply. Now, what you did next, if you sent that sober reply and then you went onto his Facebook page to see if he was dating anybody now, that's what you need to change your bottom line for. But the sober behavior that's a response. But see, here's the thing. I had the opportunity to date a fancy schmancy Hollywood entertainment attorney, and it was a disaster. He is one of those that I would consider a qualifier that I've dated. And so anyway, we had been broken up for a year. I mean, this was one that the police came to his house and an ex-girlfriend came to his house and he's ushering me out the back door. And I'm immediately, this is not what I'm going to take one more second. I don't care who this person is. So anyway, it was a year later, and an attorney, watch out for attorneys, ladies. This man wrote me the most amazing letter. It came through email, and the use of the English language was phenomenal about how amazing I was and how he really blew it and how his life has really changed and on and on and on. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take 30 days before I say anything to this. I am not responding to this because that was, you hear about how fast a Christmas tree will go up in flames. That was what happened. We're casually having lunch on his deck, and the next thing there's a knock at the door, and 20 minutes later, the police are there. I mean, it was bam, bam, bam. And it's like, no, I am not responding anything for 30 days. And then I'm going to decide. My sponsor and I are going to decide together. And at 30 days, guess what I did? Nothing. I thought, that's a dangerous human being right there. And I don't date somebody that's going to mess up my life, and cute as could be. I mean to tell you, and that's another red flag for me. The cuter they are, I just need someone I have a lovely chemistry with. I don't want somebody that I just like drool over from across the room. I want to have a lovely chemistry with somebody I enjoy, kissing, enjoy making love to, but I don't want that thing that's crazy making. So, wow, I'm not sure how far off track I am right now. What was I just answering? What question was I answering? See, that's how dangerous it is.
Can you give an example of like what some of your bottom lines are and some of your top lines?
Yeah. I shared, I don't do the he's the one syndrome. The 30 days, nothing comes unbuckled, unbelted, unzipped, hung, hooked, or unsnapped. I'm keeping everything very, not quite platonic for 30 days, but I want someone to see me as a woman and as a person before they sexualize me. And I want to see him as a man and as a person before that. So here's where we're at. We're at part 2 of step 2. What is sanity? So sanity is collision course that's going to destroy your life. I don't want somebody in my life like that. So sanity today looks like self-care. Like, how am I going to take care of myself today so that I feel rejuvenated for a week at work? What does sanity look like? Sanity today looks like today's a day that I don't see the man I'm dating now. And I don't see him on Sundays typically because I need a day for myself. Like that's what sanity looks like for me today, is that I have very clearly defined boundaries. We were together Friday night, we were together Saturday night. So that's what sanity looks like on Sunday for me in relation to him. Sanity with my son today is giving emotional generosity to him for his help and supporting me and getting a different car. My car died last week, so that's another thing I have to deal with. So this is what you're going to wake up every morning. You're going to say, I am powerless and my life is unmanageable. And then you identify it. And then you say, today, I believe that a power greater than myself is going to restore me to sanity. And here's what sanity is. Here's what sanity is today. Here's what I'm going to say, and here's what I'm not going to say. Here's where I'm going to go. Here's where I'm not going to go. That's what sanity looks like today. This is so important, you all. And along with what sanity looks like is sometimes that realm of sanity was out of my reach. Like really believing that I am a gift of God and that I deserve to be treated like a queen. Like that was out of my realm. You know, I was used to taking crumbs. And so I used affirmations. And I believe that affirmations are those things, that words and phrases that help us to begin to believe the things that don't seem true about us at all. So, you know, like I love, appreciate, and validate myself. Like, you know, that wasn't what was true for me at that time, but I use the affirmations to say, I love and appreciate myself. I value the woman I am. I deserved to be loved and cared for with kindness.